Hello and welcome to this video, which as you can see is another sort of booky one because I'm sat in front of my lone Billy bookshelf, and today we are going to do a book unhaul, which is a video I don't think I've ever done on this channel before. But as you can see, I'm on a lone bookshelf in this flat, and yes, we are trying to move. And where we move to will be bigger, so I'm hoping for more space for books, more bookshelves. But as it stands, I don't have a lot, and we're working with, if you can see these stacks here, this is my current TBR, they're double stacked. And I intend on buying a lot of books soon, so we needed to clear some space to be able to do that. But I'm not very good at unhauling books because I always want to give them a second chance. I always think I'm going to reread them. So I've had to be very strict with myself and with the books that I'm going to unhaul, essentially. So if you're interested in what I thought of most of these books, I think there's probably a book review video somewhere for all of them. So I'll link that playlist up above for you in case you're interested in my thoughts, because I won't go into too much detail. We'll see. So shall we get started? So the first book that is going is Marley and Me by John Grogan. I have only just read this book actually. I did enjoy it, but I prefer the film, so I won't reread this one. Again, similarly, read recently, and that is The Statistical Probability of Falling in Love at First Sight by Jennifer E. Smith. It's quite a sweet book. It's kind of old now, so as in it's sort of backlist, so some of the concepts aren't quite as interesting as they perhaps were when they first came out. And I am obviously considerably older than the characters in this. I didn't take quite as much enjoyment from it as I thought I would, and I'm probably never going to read it. The next book is Gotta Get Through This, the Louis Theroux autobiography. I did enjoy this book. I found his life quite interesting to read about. I do like the documentaries, but quite frankly, because it's an autobiography, I'm unlikely to read it again, so it's space that I could do with on my bookshelf. The next one is All the Beautiful Lies by Peter Swanson. This came from my Box of Stories box from 2021. This is actually sort of the only book I enjoyed from it, but as it's a thriller, I now know the twists, and it wasn't like the best thriller I've ever read. I'm not going to reread it. It was one I ummed and ahed about, but quite frankly, it's a book that it's one of those ones that I'm keeping because I feel bad about getting rid of it rather than actually have any intentions of reading it again. So this one, We Need to Talk About Kevin by Lionel Shriver, came from a charity shop. It will now be going back to a charity shop. The book wasn't quite what I expected, although it was still quite a thought-provoking and interesting read. But like many of the others, although I kind of enjoyed it, I'm not going to reread it. Next is Wuthering Tights by Louise Renison. I am denied about this one as well because I have a bit of attachment to the Georgia Nicholson series because it was like my favourite as a teenager. But then I realised I have all the Georgia Nicholson series, so why do I want to keep one that isn't even in that vein? It was a fun read, but one again that I'm not going to reread because I've sort of outgrown Louise Renison slightly. Next is Life of Pi by Jan Martel. Similar to Marley and Me, I did enjoy the book, but I prefer the film, so I'll probably just watch that if I want to have the story. Another one I have considered keeping, and that's 84 Charing Cross Road by Helen Hanff. Like with a lot of non-fiction, I can't see myself revisiting it. It was fun while I read it, but I can't see myself going back. So it's time for this to go, even though, as I said in my book review, I'm amazed that this book was 75p. Still amazed, not a reason to keep it. Next is The Baby Is Mine by Oyinkan Braithwaite, who is the author of My Sister the Serial Killer, which I have now also read. But I bought this little short sort of reading agency, quick reads book from Sainsbury's, mainly to just get a feel for the author's writing, see whether My Sister the Serial Killer is really a book that I wanted to give a go. I much preferred My Sister the Serial Killer, which I borrowed from my brother in the end. I do like the writing style, but this story, again, is not one that I plan on revisiting. The next book pains my Disney heart, and that is Once Upon a Dream by Liz Braswell. This is one of the Disney Twisted Tales and this one focuses around Sleeping Beauty and what would happen if Sleeping Beauty sort of never woke up. I have also read the Beauty and the Beast retelling, what's that one called? Tale as Old as Time, and the Frozen one, and I much prefer both of those because they have tie-ins with the film, whereas this is like completely reimagined. It's like after the film had taken place, and I just didn't really get on with it, so it's quite chunky and it's time for it to go. Next is Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain. This is actually Pete's book, but we have now both read it and have both agreed that we're not going to reread, so it can go. We then have My Sister Lives on the Mantelpiece by Annabelle Pitcher. I wasn't too keen on this book. If you want my full thoughts on why, visit the book review playlist, and I think this one was in February. Next might surprise you, and that is Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. I really enjoy this book. I think it's a great book. I reread this copy recently and once again really enjoyed it. It was like 4.5 star from me. Didn't quite get the 5-star feeling this time, but this copy, the first however many pages of the book have fallen out, and Pete's mum had a copy that she's passed my way, so this one can go. It will probably go to the free bookshelf in my tube station rather than a charity shop, just because of the state that it's in. Another Box of Stories book is We the Survivors by Tash R or Tash Orr. I hated this book. It's been sat on my bookshelf ready to go to a charity shop for a long time, but I haven't got round to sorting through all the other books, so this has been ready to go since I read it. Yeah, just wasn't my style. Similarly, The Angels of Lovely Lane by Nadine Dorries also came from that Box of Stories book. Box of Stories box, where I didn't have that much luck, where I kind of only really enjoyed one and sort of half enjoyed this one and didn't like the other two. The fourth book in that has already gone. That went a long time ago. Although this one, there were parts that I enjoyed, it's not one that I'm ever going to reread. And there's probably someone in a charity shop that will take great pleasure in taking this one off my hands, because yeah, it's not really my thing. Another book that I actually quite enjoyed was A Spark of Light by Jodie Picoult, or however you pronounce her surname. This follows a shooting in an abortion clinic. It's told backwards. It's a very interesting concept and a way of writing a novel, but because I've read it once and I know how it all works, I'm unlikely to read it again. Plus this is not the nicest of copies, so I picked this up off the free bookshelf in the tube station. It will now probably go back there unless anybody else wants it in my family, because basically I give dibs to my family and then it goes to charity. So they're all the books that are definitely going out of my collection. I have a few now that I'm going to share with you because they might go eventually, but I feel like I need to reread them before I decide if I'm ready to part with them. So I thought I'd run through those. There's not that many of them. So you will have seen her in the Unhaul section, but I have Silence as Goldfish and Ketchup Clouds by Annabelle Pitcher. Having not particularly enjoyed My Sister Lives on the Mantelpiece and remembering that I wasn't too keen on this one, I want to reread them both to see whether I want to keep them in my collection. I have a feeling this one will stay because I remember enjoying it the first time I read it, but this one might go. But I want to reread them both just to double check. Another one to reread and may or may not stay is How to Be a Woman by Caitlin Moran. I don't actually remember what I thought about this book, so it needs a reread to see whether it should stay or not. Next one is Uncommon Type by Tom Hanks. I don't know whether this is staying because it's by Tom Hanks and I like Tom Hanks, or whether I want to keep the book. I'm not a big fan of short stories. I remember finding this a little bit incohesive, I guess. So am I keeping it just because of the name on the front cover, or do I actually want to keep it? And the last one is The Girl on a Train by Paula Hawkins. I think I quite enjoyed it when I read it, but I think I read it a bit too close to Gone Girl and compared it too much to that. I have also seen the film, which I think they changed inordinately from this book. So again, it's one of those that I don't know whether to keep to keep thrillers basically after I know what happens. But I think it's been long enough now for me to reread this one and see whether it should stay in my collection or not. So there you have it. There are the 20 odd books that are due to potentially leave my collection. I think there's about 16 in the actual definitely going pile, and then there's about 5 in the do I don't I pile. So there you go. Have I really offended anyone with any of the books that I've got rid of, or do you agree with me or anything like that? Leave your comments in the box thingy below. It'd be great to get a conversation started about any of these books, if you have any strong opinions one way or the other about them. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already and you fancy it, please go ahead and subscribe. Obviously, as I said, I am planning on buying books, so there will be a book haul coming soon-ish, and obviously the monthly book videos will continue, as well as the normal weekly vlogs that come out on a Sunday. So yeah, that's me. I hope you have a nice day, evening, weekend, whenever you watch this, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!